Mark Procknik here, librarian at the New Bedford Whaling Museum. And right now, for this story from the stacks, I'm going to talk a little bit about the observations that whalers made, especially at night. Now, the thing about whalers, or any seafaring trade, they spend a lot of time using the stars to navigate. They're very familiar with the sky. They know the ins and outs of what's supposed to be in the sky, what isn't supposed to be in the sky. And they're very keen observers, so they'll note things that shouldn't be there. What's interesting is that if there's something unique in the sky, they'll describe it in language they're familiar with. For example, a shooting star, a comet, a meteor. But sometimes they can't exactly find the right word to describe it, and they just associate what they're familiar with, like a blazing planet or something like that. So, fairly standard entry. This one, journal kept on board the ship Columbia. The keeper writes, "A very large comet appears this night, in sight nearly a month." That's fairly standard. That's fairly standard. They see a comet, they recognize a comet, they observe that it's there, they note it in their journal or their logbook. That's fairly standard. Now I'm going to shift to this one. The logbook kept on board the ship Navigator. What's fascinating about this one is that one particular day, Friday, March 3rd, the keeper writes, "Observed a phenomenon in the western horizon at 8 p.m. That's what he says. That's the language he uses. The very next day, March 4th, saw the comet again. So, one day it was a phenomenon. The next day he sees it again. Okay, it must be a comet. When they're familiar with comets, they see them often, or from time to time, whenever a comet appears. So this phenomenon, this light in the sky, must be best explained away as a comet. Now, was it a true phenomenon? Was it really a comet? I mean, there's no way to know. I wasn't there. But the keeper was, he called it a comet. So I can't actually doubt him. I do question the fact that if you recognize it as a comet the second day, why not the first day? Question I can't answer. Now we're going to move to this one, kept on board the Tropic Bird. Now the keeper here is fairly descriptive, but there's two back-to-back entries that I think are worth referencing in regards to this whole lights in the sky comet discussion. It's one particular day, he notes, saw a large comet bearing northwest. The very next night, another large comet in sight, bearing north by northeast. Now I think these two entries are significant. One, the keeper makes note of one comet. The very next night, he doesn't call it the same comet, he calls it a different comet, bearing in a different direction. Okay, it could be the same comet, but I didn't think comets change direction on a nightly basis. Maybe they do, I'm not an astronomer. I think it's interesting that the keeper also doesn't believe this because he refers to it as another comet. Now, could comets appear on back-to-back nights, going in different directions? I'm not an astronomer. I wasn't there. I don't know what he was seeing. But he did call them comets, and they were going different directions. I find it odd, but I'm not going to debate it with him. If he wants to call them comets, he can call them comets. I wasn't there. I can't argue with him. This next journal, this next logbook, I have no idea what he saw, and neither does the keeper. What's interesting, phenomenons, lights in the sky, in these other journals and logbooks, the keepers call them comets. That's what they can best use to describe what they're seeing. This one on board the Charles Phelps out of Stonington, Connecticut. The keeper writes, on this one entry, he writes, I'm going to quote this directly from his writing in this log. "We saw a light in the west-southwest. It came down to the horizon and extended far into the heavens in such a way all of the men saw that they never saw before. We can give no account for what it is. It lasted until the moon went down." So here is a whaler, a seasoned whaler. He's keeping the logbook, so I assume he's the first mate. That's the duty of the first mate. He and all the other whalemen on board. Now, not every whaleman is a seasoned whaler. There are some green hands, some are rookie whalers, but there's a captain, there are officers. These guys have been at sea for a while. They've been on multiple voyages. He notes that no one on board can describe what they're seeing. They've never seen anything like it before. I know for a fact they would have all seen comets, shooting stars, and meteors, and they would have described what they were seeing in a way similar to that if, in fact, what they were seeing was reminiscent of a comet, meteor, shooting, and anything like that. The keeper is quite clear, based on the description of how this object is moving, that this was not any of those. And he does not offer an explanation as to what this light could be. Now, what was this light? I have no idea. I'm not going to jump to conclusions. All I'm going to say is that it's an unidentified light in the sky that was flying. So we can call it an unidentified flying object because that's essentially what it was. Now, could I identify it if I was there? Probably not. I have no idea. This keeper couldn't. No one on board could. So this, what I'm holding here, is a logbook that contains a reference to a 19th century unidentified flying object. And it's noted as such in here that we cannot identify it. We've never seen anything like it before, which means it doesn't look like a comet, doesn't look like a meteor, or anything that could easily be explained naturally occurring in the stars. And I think that's really, really cool. That's worth coming down to take a look at. Next time in New Bedford, come down to the museum. We'll show you some cool UFO stuff or some documentation of comets, whatever your fancy is. The point is, we have them in our logbook and journal collection.